What If Episode 2 has just released, and what an incredible episode. In this episode, we get to see T'Challa, voiced by the late and great Chadwick Boseman, become a Star Lord. As most MCU fans will know, T'Challa becomes the Black Panther and later the King of Wakanda. But in this new reality, it seems he's taken the place of Peter Quill and has become the outlaw Star Lord. Welcome to the Chaos Multiverse, everybody. Jimmy here, Chaos. Today, we are going to be breaking down a full breakdown of Episode 2 of What If. We do this every single week, so if you guys enjoy, make sure you're subscribed with those notifications on, and let's get into it. Let's just go through it all. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, you should probably click off the video. The episode begins the same as the first. You have the Watcher introducing the audience to the idea of different realities. Now, after the intro, we see the Watcher explain how the galaxy, it's just bright dots in the sky for all of us here on Earth, but to him, it's much more. This is what the MCU did for the fans when Guardians of the Galaxy was released. Now, at first, we were used to the stories of heroes on Earth. Then, we finally got to experience the heroes of the galaxy, and things got a little more cosmic. More specifically, the Guardians of the Galaxy. We then see a similar scene to the Guardians of the Galaxy where Star-Lord enters the temple on Morag to collect the Power Stone, which resides in an orb, only this time it's not Peter Quill. It's T'Challa from Wakanda. Now, while Star-Lord enters the temple, we hear the Watcher explain that in a multiverse filled with alternate realities, our fate is decided by our nature or the nature of our world, explaining to the fans the reason why T'Challa and Star-Lord both chose the path or galactic outlaws due to the fact they were both Earthlings who wanted to see more. T'Challa's suit is even similar to how Peter Quill looks with his jacket, his helmet, and the elemental guns with a splash of purple, and even the vibranium necklace that T'Challa had as a young boy. So Star-Lord takes the Power Stone using a magnetic gadget, just like Peter did in the original timeline. However, when Karath turns up to take the Power Stone this time, well, in the original timeline, he didn't know who Star-Lord was. But since it is T'Challa walking the path of Star-Lord, he seems to have a much larger impression on the galaxy, although T'Challa became an outlaw like Peter Quill did, so he also has become a hero amongst the galaxy, kind of changing a significant number of events from the original MCU timeline. Karath then starts to ask T'Challa if he should be bowing, as this is what he feels right to do in his presence, and this can actually be a callback to T'Challa's role on the original MCU timeline as the King of Wakanda. And when Bruce Banner bowed to T'Challa in the Infinity War after being tricked by Rhodey into doing so. T'Challa even tells Karath to neither bow nor kneel as it's unnecessary, just like his Black Panther counterpart did. Now, Karath has great respect for this version of the Star-Lord, but he states he still has a job to do for his boss, but is willing to change sides for someone like T'Challa. So they end up fighting, which obviously T'Challa takes the victory, but takes Karath anyway, thinking about how useful he could actually be. He then exits the temple and is ambushed by Sicarian guards. In the original timeline, these were actually Thanos' men given to Ronan the Accuser, but this time, they're the army of the Collector, who has actually taken Thanos' place as the universe's conqueror. Okay, things are a little different. Now, this version of the Collector has expanded his collection and acts as a kingpin for a huge portion of the galaxy. With Thanos not destroying half the population of various worlds in the past, as explained later, the Collector was able to fill in the power vacuum left by the Mad Titan. It's interesting. T'Challa, clearly outmatched, yells out that a Ravager never flies solo, and Yondu appears with his arrow and takes down the entire army so that he and T'Challa could leave. Now, it seems in this reality that Yondu works a lot closer with T'Challa than he did with Quill in the original MCU. Yondu then tells T'Challa that if they were in the good old days, they would sell the orb to the highest bidder, but he reminds him they would give it to the Krylorians' dying star and save their system from extinction. The Krylorians are the same pink-skinned species as Karina in this episode and in Guardians of the Galaxy, who works for the Collector. Now, just like Captain Carter in Episode 1, this version of T'Challa is being presented as a very different version in terms of the original character in the main MCU timeline. Peter Quill's Star-Lord was not well known and was more of an outlaw. However, T'Challa seems to have turned the Ravagers into his own version of the Guardians, and rather than make money, they actually try to help people, which is actually kind of cool. The Watcher then explains what Nexus event caused T'Challa to fall down this path. We then see Wakanda and a young, well, not a king anymore, complaining to his father that he's sick of being hidden away and wants to explore. Now, as MCU fans may know from the Black Panther movie, that Wakanda was hidden away from the rest of the world. It was only after Killmonger's death that T'Challa opened Wakanda's borders for the first time in centuries. So here, T'Challa wants to go out and explore himself, but his father wishes for all Wakandans to stay in their home. You can see where this is going. The Watcher then explains to the audience that the reason T'Challa was taken rather than Peter Quill was down to wrong place at the wrong time. He explains it at the very moment T'Challa passed outside of the border in order to get a spear he had just thrown, a Ravager ship passed by with the job of finding Ego's child. Now in the main MCU and in this universe, Peter Quill is Ego's son and was taken. But Yondu loved the child, so he refused to return him to his father. We'll see that later. Yondu has done the same thing with T'Challa. Now in this universe, the Nexus event was when Yondu asked Kraglin and Taserface to collect Ego's son. But due to their incompetence, Taserface, it's metaphorical, T'Challa was taken instead. Now, Kraglin tries to defend himself by stating that where they picked up T'Challa had this huge amount of cosmic energy radiating from it, so he believed there was something on Earth which was not meant to be on Earth, such as a celestial sun. And then that spot is where it would be. However, T'Challa confirms to them it was probably the vibranium mound they were scanning, while, I mean, many people would think that it did not originate from Earth. Yondu is confused. He's confused about T'Challa being himself. He asked him why he was by himself, to which the young boy stated he wanted to explore the world. He was touched by that, and he offered T'Challa something he could not refuse, the chance to explore the galaxy. Then we make a major cut. We go 20 years into the future, where T'Challa is in the present day with the Ravagers, celebrating their newest member, and Karath asked T'Challa what his favorite heist was. Now, struggling to find an answer, he mentions a heist called the Central Bank Heist of Tarnex 5. And then Yondu states, it can't hurt to hurt a Skrull. Now, in the comics, Tarnex is the Skrull capital, and it seems T'Challa and his team visited the planet, stole a huge amount of their money, and left. Now, let's talk more about Thanos. And actually, in the Infinity War, in the Snap. In reality, Thanos has become somewhat of a good guy, anti-hero, right? He's joining the Ravagers. He even jokes them by saying that his original plan was still more efficient, regardless if it was pure genocide. Kind of a laugh at the sacred timelines, Thanos. We then cut to T'Challa ordering drinks for none other than Drax. Now, only in this universe could T'Challa must have fought Ronan in the Kree invasion on his homeworld and saved his wife and daughter, in which the original timeline, they were all killed by Ronan. After a few photos taken by Drax with T'Challa to show his wife and daughter, who are alive, we then see Nebula. And Nebula has blonde hair. This version of Nebula seems to have less cybernetics, which should be due to the fact that her adoptive father, Thanos, turned out good and decided not to turn her into a weapon every time she lost a battle to her sister. Now, it seems that Nebula and T'Challa become very close during their adventures, and he even tries to convince her that Thanos has changed and that she should try to reconnect with him. We even hear that Thanos now gardens, which that's a callback to Avengers Endgame, where Thanos decided after the snap he would go to a world he calls the Garden, and he would live the rest of his life in peace. It didn't really work out that way, but yeah. T'Challa then tells Nebula that Yondu attempted to take T'Challa back to Wakanda when he was young, but it was all destroyed. We later find out that Yondu lied to him so he could keep him around. It's kind of similar to the arc with Peter Quill in the original timeline, where he was told he was kept around because he was small and good for thieving things, when that wasn't the truth. Now we cut to the heist movie-like setting with the Ravagers listening to Nebula explain how they should get a powerful artifact called the Embers of Genesis, which has the ability to terraform entire planets, essentially healing dying planets and giving them life. T'Challa then states that if they were to steal these from the Collector, they could feed billions of people on all types of worlds, and they could eradicate hunger across the galaxy. It's a parallel to what Thanos wanted to do, where he wanted to eradicate half of life. They're talking about feeding the entire galaxy. Nebula then explains that the Collector is one with these embers. In this universe, the Collector has used Thanos' absence of power to rise and create this huge intergalactic underworld to which he's the ruler. Yondu does not like the plan and states they're not going to help Nebula if the Collector is involved. And it's interesting to note, as the Collector in the main MCU timeline did not wish for power and only wanted to collect, but this time he wanted to collect all 6 Infinity Stones, but it was assumed he wanted them for his collection, not... I don't know. It's kind of unsure. I think he wanted to take over the whole universe the entire time. T'Challa then convinces Yondu to join the heist, and they do not back down from a fight, and they collect the embers, and they're going to save lives. We cut to the team explaining that the Collector is in nowhere, and that the Black Order runs his security. Now, it seems that after Thanos joined the Ravagers, his children did not follow and went on their own paths. Their plan is to walk into the Collector's museum, pretend to sell the orb, housing the Power Stone, of course, but then instead, T'Challa will sneak in whilst the rest of the Ravagers cause a diversion so that Proxima Midnight would leave her post. Well, does it work out that way? Kinda. Well, Nebula and Yondu then allow T'Challa to search for the embers, and they distract the Collector. However, It seems that the Collector's collection is far larger than what we saw in the original Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Now T'Challa looks for the embers. We see him walk past Cosmo, a dog in a spacesuit, who is a character from the Marvel comics, just like in the Guardians, right? Then we did then see a familiar face from the Collector's collection in the original MCU timeline, Howard the Duck. Howard then tries to help T'Challa by giving him directions and mentioning multiple creatures from the Collector's collection, if you will. Frost giants, Cronins, same species as Korg if you want to know, and even the Dark Elves. Now, T'Challa's impatience gets the better of him. He lets Howard out to lead the way to the embers. We then see the Ravagers continue to cause a distraction by brawling in the street, but Proxima Midnight takes them all down and realizes it was a diversion. So she locks down the building, ruining the heist. T'Challa then ditches Howard as he sees the doors of the museum closing and swoops underneath one leading to a hangar with a lot of ships. We find a Nova ship there. We find a Ravager ship and a Grandmaster ship, which Thor actually used to escape Sakaar in Thor Ragnarok. Remember the Devil's Anus? We even see a ball-shaped vehicle which looks similar to the gyro spears used in Jurassic World. I don't think we're getting a crossover or anything, but it was pretty cool. We then move forward. Then there was a massive fight. Corvus Glaive, Ebony Maw, the Collector, all of Thanos' old henchmen, but Thanos is on the good side now, and we get to the point where the Collector takes off his coat. He reveals very advanced cybernetics to give him his strength he has. We then see a huge chest full of weapons that the Collector has collected and tries to pick one out that he can defeat T'Challa with. Some of these weapons are noticeable. Mjolnir, Captain America's shield, a sword similar to that of Thanos' sword in Avengers Endgame, they all make an appearance. The Collector then shows us a dagger forged from the dark matter that he had taken from the ruler of the Dark Elves. He then presents us with the Helmet of Hela, which gives him the ability to create weapons at will. Showing off all these weapons allowed the audience to actually see this version of the Collector as a massive threat. He must have killed Captain America. He must have killed Thor. Heck, he must have even killed the goddess of death, Hela herself, in this timeline. So during this fight, the Ravagers try to escape, but they're being pursued by the Black Order and the Sakarans, but Thanos fights them off to allow his daughter and the other Ravagers to get away. We even get a fun little nod to Thanos' title as the Mad Titan when Nebula refers to the fighting their pursuers off alone as crazy, to which Thanos corrects her by saying, that is mad. Love the payoffs. It's cool. It's cool to see a version of Thanos who acts as a hero and seeming to face enemies which were allies to him in the original timeline. We then go back to T'Challa, and he's got stabbed in the shoulder, pinning him against a cage. And before he's finished by the Collector, he once again states that a Ravager does not fly solo, and Yondu appears to save the day again. Now we cut to see Thanos facing Cole Obsidian and Proxima Midnight again, and it's about to be killed when his daughter comes in and releases a few spores from the embers of Genesis, which we later see completely covers nowhere with plants. Now the Ravagers escape, and we see Yondu and T'Challa face the Collector again together, and they stick him into one of his own cages and give the device that can open the cage to Karina, his slave, where she releases all the species that the Collector had collected and turn on him, just like she kind of blew up the Power Stone or blew up herself in the original. Now, T'Challa and Yondu escape. They use the Wakandan ship, and we see that Cosmo the dog has somehow got onto that ship and joined T'Challa in their escape. Now, T'Challa forgives Yondu, but admits he feels like he doesn't belong here anymore. But Yondu assures him this is where he should be. One of the last scenes is T'Challa returning to Wakanda and showing his father the new family he made out in space. We actually see a few conversations between the Wakandans and the Ravagers, including Thanos, and he's discussing his original plan to wipe out half the universe. Of course, in this reality, it's a joke, but in the main MCU, it was 2 full movies. Actually, it was a decade in the making. Then we cut to the final scene, which the Watcher explains that with one family reunion between T'Challa and his family, we see another. We then see Peter Quill, now just an ordinary man on Earth, being visited by his father Ego. Now, in the original timeline, Ego intercepted the Guardians and lured Peter into his master plan to spread across the universe. But here, Peter was not taken by the Ravagers. He gave Ego the opportunity to take Peter without any issues. The Watcher then points out this could lead to the end of the world, but that is a story for another day. Whether this continuation of the timeline will continue in season 1 or 2, I don't know. It's going to be interesting, though, because Ego showed up. Then we finish the episode with a message dedicated to our friend, our inspiration, and our hero, Chadwick Boseman. If T'Challa's version of Star Lord does not reappear anywhere in What If, it would mean this episode is the last thing that T'Challa has done for the MCU. And of course, this message was heartbreaking to see. We may not hear the voice of Chadwick again, but it was inspiring to hear his story, and he should be an inspiration and a hero to us all. We hope that T'Challa's Star-Lord will reappear somewhere. He could join Captain Carter and the new team. I don't know, the Guardians in the Multiverse, something. If not, though, it was a good send-off. There you have it, my friends. That is a full breakdown of Episode 2, What If. If you guys enjoyed, let me know. What was your favorite part of it? Are you enjoying the series? Are you looking forward to what's coming? We'll be breaking it down every single week. I'll see you soon.